I was talking to a very good guy last night. He's a GP here in Australia. Another thing is, a lot of doctors, they're not. I mean, they're educated to believe these numbers. That's what their education, is all about. Keeping you in these numbers. They think they're keeping you healthy. Most of them, but it's not very incentivized to get people off medications, because they get more money when you have a repeat customer. When you have someone that keeps coming back, if you get them healthy, then they're going to stop coming and seeing you. Yeah. So they're not really incentivized to get you healthy.
Yeah, it's also that, just prescribing a drug is super time efficient.
Oh,
you can get much more patients through doing that than sitting down and saying, okay, tell me about your problems. Tell me what your situation is.
You can get them in and out in 5 minutes, give them a drug. Okay, on your way. It's all good. You get a repeat customer, you get paid, and the quicker you do it, the more people you can see.
Yeah.
So that's the thing.
The standard of care is set by medical schools, which are paid for by pharmaceutical companies. So they've set the standard of care, and that's everything from cancer to blood sugar to whatever. They set the standard of care.
It doesn't matter what your illness is. Yeah,
no,
these pharmaceutical companies, they set the standard of care, and so doctors just follow that. It's like we were just talking to Dave's in Japan. So we're talking about, like, in Japan, when you start a job, you have like these list of rules. They follow them. They don't deviate. And that's the problem with the standard of care in the medical system. They don't deviate. They don't look at the individual. They look at you as a number. This is the plan, and this is what they follow through. Like with my treatments, like, you guys know I did 3 solid years of chemotherapy. Even though like the second lot, the bendamustine, the clinical trial, they knew it was doing nothing. It was doing nothing, but it almost killed me a few times. But they didn't deviate at all. They just kept it going, because that was the standard of care. That was the plan. It's kind of like paint by numbers.
What's
those
even
are
more
the steps they've been taught.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what's more serious than that, in America, I'm sure Australia and the UK are the same. I'm not. I'm not certain, but in America, if my son, who's 14, got cancer, I have no choice. They do the standard of care, or he is removed from my custody.
Same here in Australia.
It's neglect, right?
Yeah, it's the same.
The law. And I had no clue because I've never had a kid with cancer, right? And I think most of us haven't. But if you become the parent that does, you get woke up real quick that you don't have a choice. The system takes over your kid.
Yeah, which is just so wrong. It's I mean, I saw this a lot when I was in treatment. I was staying at a foundation called the Leukemia Foundation, because we didn't have anywhere to live. But I saw so many kids going through this treatment, and it's so brutal. They can't. Kids, they're so fragile. They can't handle that kind of treatment. So it's very rare for them to actually make it through.
Yeah,
but that's just that they don't deviate. And the law takes over, and like you said, you have no choice when you have a kid with cancer.
And now I see commercials all the time, which I've seen all my life growing up, like commercials for money being donated to, cancer studying and cancer awareness and heart association. And I'm like, these are, like, in my opinion now, evil empires. They're all like more tentacles of the same creature, right? And a lot of people that work there are not. I mean, they're not evil people working there, but the overall entities are not lined up on the side of good, right? They're
that's right.
And
they
when
go
you
out of business if you cure it.
Oh, sorry. And when you think the amount of money that's been donated to these organizations, and the guidelines haven't changed in all those decades that they've been taking donations in, right? So they're still doing the same things that they were doing 30, 40 years ago.
Cancer rates continue sloping up.
Yeah, that's right.
So where's why are we doing this? That's just, repeating the same thing and expecting a different result, which we know is insanity, right? And but it's engineered. These guys are
of
smart.
course it is. I mean, I mean, of course it is, because I mean, we've survived like 5 million years or more, right, without cancer, and yet now, in the last 100 years, we've gone from like a very rare disease to I think a couple of months ago they started trying to their new numbers are predicted like 1 in 2 people will have cancer within their lifetime. So how did that happen? That didn't happen naturally. Okay, I mean, if it was actually Chafee we were talking about this the other day with Chafee. If it was a genetic disease,
right,
it would be in a family line and it would have died out eventually. It would have died out millions of years ago, because that genetic line would not have survived. So it's impossible to say that it's a genetic disease. It has to be it has to be an environmental thing, like, and seed oils, sugar, and things like that. This only started to rise. It only started to happen. Like, even heart disease was so rare that no one believed them back in the 30s. This only started when they started putting these seed oils and machine oils into our food.
It's true.
Yeah.
I mean, even when I think back to when I was, 6, 7 years old, you didn't see getting old as the same thing you see getting old as now. Getting old was just getting old, but now getting old is getting sick.
Frail.
Yes. Yeah, and frail. Yeah, like back in the day, like old people were still working, still doing things, and in Japan they're still doing things. While I was in Japan, you go to these shrines and temples and you see you're literally climbing a mountain, and then you hit like another mountain of stairs, and you got like 80, 90-year-old people doing this. It's incredible. And they're just so active. They're quite strong. They get around. They walk everywhere. I didn't see one mobility scooter the whole time I was there. Here in Australia, you get a little bit obese and you just get a mobility scooter and it's all good. You don't, your legs retire.
Another tentacle in the machine. This is something. So since my son's 14 now, so for the last 9 years, except for the COVID year, I took him to Disney World every year because there's a military resort there. So I was a vet, so I was able to go inexpensively, or relatively inexpensively. And compared to the first year to now, there's all these disabled people who cut in line that are just in these mobility scooters, and they're just fat. They're not disabled. Their disability is they cannot move around because they're sick. They're metabolically ill.
Unhealthy,
they have metabolic syndrome 100%. And of course the food they feed you there, the same as the standard food, is a terrible diet. But to see the growth in that industry, like there was I think 10 years ago, there was very few mobility scooters. Like people might've brought their own, but now they're in the park and they're just like the grocery store, and they're lined up to help you continue your sickness. Right. It's so awful to see.
Yeah. But even in theme parks there are choices. You don't have to have the deep fried in seed oil chips and junk food. That you can go and get a steak. You can get a decent meal there. So
we're gonna bring we're bringing our own food this year, and we're going again this year, and I'm gonna get a hotel that has a little kitchenette, and we're gonna have a fridge and a freezer. And I'm bringing an air fryer, and we're gonna cook out. And I can't imagine how much money we're gonna save, because what I used to spend on food, because I planned every meal. I was a plans officer, so I'm used to planning stuff. And I would plan all these meals out. These different restaurants would all be advanced reservations, and we do that's part of the experience. And now the experience would just be riding rides and go home and eat, and eat before we leave.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I used to go to Disneyland in Japan actually, and like, we always had a good healthy meal though. Like we had plenty of buffets and steaks. Meat is just so cheap in Japan. It really is. Even the hotels, the buffets there are super cheap. Actually, the hotel we stayed when we flew there a few weeks back, we stayed in the old Jiao Hotel with had a buffet breakfast. It was like I think it was like $60, $70 for the night, including breakfast, including the buffet breakfast. It's so cheap.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just amazing place. So I don't think it's like in Japan. And Japan's completely different to here. Everything is just so cheap. It's easy to be carnivore, and certainly easy to just to live. Compared to Australia. And
that's
just much cleaner food. Much cleaner food.
It's a misconception here in the States, because in the States everyone thinks, oh, they eat rice and a little bit of fish. And it's like, no. You ever heard of Kobe beef? I mean, that didn't come from America, right? I mean,
no, that's right. Where do you think Wagyu came from?
Wagyu or whatever. Yeah, I mean, these guys are into some beef, and the high quality beef when they eat it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And pork,
very fatty.
Lots of pork.
Yeah, lots of fatty meat. Yeah.
But then they'll say, "Oh, but the blue zones, they don't eat meat in Okinawa," and it's like Okinawa eats so much. Okinawa eats so much meat. It's not funny. But I was talking to Peter Ballister the other day, and he was telling me that part of the reason that Okinawa is a blue zone is because when they did whatever they did, the survey or whatever they did to work out they don't eat meat. It was like after the war when there was no pork there and whatever, and
everyone was too poor to eat
it. Yeah, they were too poor. So it's like, at that moment in time they didn't have pork, so it's a blue zone.
Yeah,
a
lot of the questions they asked the people in the blue zone when they did the blue zone study as well, is like all they did was say, okay, do you eat vegetables and rice? They said yes, of course they do. But it's only like 10% of their diet.
Yeah.
The other 90% is all meat. So they just omit that part.
Well, it's marketing. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's marketing.
Yeah,
these studies, I forget. Yeah, they're all marketing studies. They're used to sell food and.
Well, in this case, they're used to sell control. Like it's just
epidemiological studies are marketing. This leverage.
Yeah.
I always wondered that though, because I would see all these studies come out, and I kind of believed them. This is back when I was on the standard diet. It's like, oh, eat blueberries, and you're going to lower your blood cholesterol. And they're like, oh, eat yogurt, and this is good for you. And then I'd see, oh, eat this, and everything was like. So I thought, well, I just have to eat more of all these things, and I kept adding to that list. A cup of this a day can do this, and a spoonful of this a day, and I just thought, well, if it's a study, it must be real. And that again, the red pill moment, you realize that's all wrong.
Yeah.
But that's like, when you're on a regular diet and all through the 80s and 90s, if you watched Oprah, everything's a superfood.
Yeah.
Like your blueberries or your this or your that, but before you know it,
all of a sudden they're superfood.
About steak being a superfood.
Yeah.
Well, and so I grew up, because I'm 57, so I grew up as a kid in the 70s before the food pyramid came out. So we ate a healthier, whole food based diet for the most part. Even McDonald's French fries only had 3 ingredients back then. They had a potato, lard, and salt. Now they got 19 ingredients, right? They're engineered now. So I mean, we ate
Well,
a
plus
much healthier food.
they changed their cooking methods too. They've gone from tallow to vegetable oils.
That's one of the ingredients. The ingredients
Yeah.
were tallow, salt, and potato, and then they went to vegetable oil plus 18 other ingredients, including adding sugar, so they can add more salt and then add sugar and get the bliss point perfectly where it's addictive.
Yeah.
And they've just dialed that thing right in. And so growing up though, as a kid in the 70s, none of my friends were fat. We had like a fat kid in the school. We had one fat parent. All the parents were out of shape parents, but they weren't obese, right? We had one obese lady, Mrs. Kaplan. Everyone else was like thin. I mean, and in kind of in shape, right? Some people, like I said, weren't exercise fiends or anything, but I used to be a lifeguard at the pool when I was in high school. And there weren't a bunch of huge people in the pool. That's just not, and people like, oh, people just were ashamed. No, I'm sorry. I knew all my neighbors. They weren't ashamed. They were at the pool. And I watched them. I helped their kids learn how to swim. We were not fat back then like we are now. Now I look at my street here, 70% at least obese.
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at photos, like go to the beach, photos of the beach, like from the 60s and 70s, and it's really rare to find an obese person, even just at the beach. And now,
and people say they were ashamed. They were fat shamed, is what people say, which is wrong, because I grew up in that era. That's not what was going on.
And honestly, I think they should be fat shamed. Yeah.
Well,
it's not
kind
to
of
a point.
because
I mean, I'm not saying like to be mean. I'm just saying that at that time, I mean, now is different because the food that we are in now is just ridiculous. But back then, there was a reason they were fat shaming, because basically their obesity was their fault. And they also didn't make allowances like for clothes and things like that. So people were more people were more watchful of their weight back then, because they didn't want to they wanted to wear decent clothes as well. But it's a different story now. Like these seed oils are in absolutely everything.
It's celebrated now as well.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's fat pride.
You're healthy at any size.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just trying to get us to accept being sick. It's not about fat acceptance. It's about sick acceptance.
Yeah.
Same
with mental health.
You're not plus size. Okay. Yeah. You're dying.
We've got kids identifying as cats in school. I mean, the mental health issue too. There's they should be proud. It's like I just listen.
Any parent that accepts that it's just off the rails. But this mental illness all comes down to the food.
Agreed.
All of it. And there's all this acceptance stuff is about us accepting the fact that we're being sick and insane is a normal thing. They're trying to normalize it. And they're trying to take the blame away from these corporations that produce these foods and put it on us.
Yeah, that's reality. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Dave.
The thing that worries me about all this now is look at what it's like leadership wise now. What's going to happen when the current Gen Z are the leaders of the world, where they've grown up, where everyone's running around telling them that it's okay to be a cat, it's okay to be obese, all that kind of thing. When these people are leading, it's just going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, something has to change very soon. Otherwise, it's a very bleak future for the humanity.
Yeah. I mean, I recommend people continue to educate themselves, especially if they're new to this diet, and watch the documentaries that are out there, the Fat Fiction, the documentary, those kind of things that kind of show how the tentacles began, like how this, the U.S. McGovern Commission basically set the food pyramid as the standard, and then the low-fat food pyramid as the standard that went through the whole West, including your countries, and I mean, just destroyed us as a people, just because he wanted to run for president and didn't have time to go into wait for data, so they just made a decision and were influenced by keys.
Well, influenced by corporations and things like that too. So.
And exactly. Or how our food standards now and our healthy food standards are set by a religious sect that I had no clue of. I tell people that and they don't believe me. I'm like, just go look it up. It's not hidden. It's not even hidden.
That's right.
It's out in the open. It's so it's pretty crazy. So the religion is our food system.
The thing is too, when it comes to government, for example, no one elected these people to tell us how to eat. That's not their job. Their job is to run the country.
Point.
Right.
No one runs on, when you look at an election, you go to an election, no one runs on, okay, we're going to let you eat meat sort of thing. No one has ever voted anyone to tell us how to eat. It's none of their goddamn business.
Well, that's where the new environmental movement is going, though. So we are going to have people voting to tell us we can eat meat. Right? We're going to have to vote in because they're going after everything now.
Yeah, that's why they're using that for an excuse to tell us how to eat. These so-called think tanks and again unelected think tanks dictating to the world.
Yeah. I didn't vote for anyone in the World Health Organization. Never once.
Or the UN.
Never had the opportunity to vote for or against them. Never.
No, that's right. Here's a question. How are politics in Japan? Are they pushing plant-based eating, meat tax or sugar tax? What do you think, Dave?
Politics in Japan is, it's sedate compared to politics in the rest of the world. I think they've got two sides, just like most places, but one side has been in power for all but one term since the war, and nothing much changes here and stuff, and it's pretty, no one really cares about politics, and so it's easy to switch off. They're not really pushing plant-based as far as I've seen. Some like fast food restaurants like Moss Burger have come out with plant-based burgers, but they don't seem to do very well. And I'm not sure there's a meat tax or a sugar tax. I don't think so.
Taxes have gone up recently, though, in Japan, but not compared to, everything's still extremely cheap compared to the West, like compared to Australia. I think their GST tax is 10% now, Dave?
Yeah, 10%.
Yeah. And their wage tax are super low. They basically this wages taxes in Japan are almost you just don't even notice it.
It's nothing compared to Australia.
Yeah. Like here in Australia, like half your wages go on tax. And then you got like a 15% GST on top of that on everything, and it's just crazy. As far as politics, it's pretty much a uni party, the same as Australia, but they're just not as. I suppose it is getting worse. It is getting as bad as the rest, Western countries, but I don't think you notice it as much because you're starting from a much cheaper, a much much easier going sort of lifestyle to start with. So I think it's far less. It's kind of, some things are really strict, some things are not. But I think a lot of the best thing about Japan is they hold on to their traditions as well. They still celebrate their traditions, their culture, and that the biggest problem Australia has is that they've managed to get rid of that.
I think things will change in Japan. It'll just take time. Like Japan tends to be like 20, 30 years behind the West, right? As far as the things they do.
Sounds like a place I'd like to live.
Yeah.
And I don't see like our movement and direction we're moving as progress, really. I mean, we have technology, but I mean, things have gotten worse across the board, which is the other thing. You look at the metrics and it's like, I don't understand how people aren't discontent with what's happening. I mean, in every aspect of life, you know, it's gotten worse. I don't get it. And no one's complaining about it. So I guess people are starting to wake up to it now, but it's, you know, I'm dissatisfied with the two-party system, which is really two sides of the same coin. I'm dissatisfied with corporate overreach. I'm dissatisfied with everything, the government reaching into our lives. I mean,
I think government overreach has just gone too far. But you know, when it comes to the two-party system, the problem is it's more of a uni-party because it's you know, okay, so like in America, you have the Democrats and the Republicans, but you know, a lot of Republicans are really Democrats. You know,
they're buddies.
Yeah,
I noticed
and
that when I was
here in Australia,
when I was serving, like throughout the wars, nothing changed after people got nothing significant changed in the military or the wars between these guys. So, you know, these guys would call the other guys warmongers and they'd come in and do drone strikes. And then the other guys would come in and call people more warmongers and they do drone strikes. So drone strikes are happening either way because General Electric and Martin Marietta are getting paid. And those drones make money, you know, and that's really what it's all about. I'm like, man, this is pretty terrible system.
The parties change, but it's the same lobbyists.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Those are the ones in control. They have the purse strings, right?
Yeah. When you can buy politicians.
Same with the food.
I keep saying to people, you can't lose if you own both teams. You know,
that's what it is.
You know, if you own both teams, like here in Australia, both teams they're swapping over to make it look like they give you the illusion of choice, but they're both working towards the same result. You know,
100%.
And you know, if you're a corporation, you can't lose if you own both sides, do you?
Yeah. So having a young son, you know, it's disturbing to me that he's in this world now. But the thing is, he's a critical thinker. And that's what, you know, they don't teach kids critical thinking anymore, but he does. Because I always, whenever we see something, especially if he comments on it, I say, well, let's trace that back. Let's see who's making money. Let's see what's going on. What's the genesis, and go and trace things back and figure out what is actually the cause and effect of this, you know, whatever it is we're talking about, and look at things from all angles and figure it out, just like you do with this diet. And that's why I say you need to continue to educate yourself, because the truth's there. We just have to dig for the tools to get it.
Yeah. Well, like I keep saying to people too, one of the best things we can do to, you know, to fight this is to stay healthy. So, you know, educate yourself, get on the right diet. And I know people have some, you know, they don't like the idea of carnivore diet, but the fact is our body is built to absorb animal fats, and that's where we get it, and proteins, and that's how we survive. That's how we regenerate. That's how we take care of our hormone production and everything else. We cannot avoid it. And the standard diet is killing us. It's got us dying slowly enough that we think we are living, you know,
and slowly enough that they can maximize profits because they get a lifetime subscriber to their prescription. That's right.
Exactly. They've
got
a lifetime.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they want. A long-term subscriber.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, it's I mean, we could talk forever on that stuff, but it is what it is. But you know, the thing is, we are changing it, and you know, I think there's going to be a lot of big changes in the coming years. I think we're right on the edge now, because if it doesn't change soon, it'll be too late. But I think there's some big changes coming, you know.
Well, one of the things I like about this community, though, is that there's no leader that they can cut the head off of. And There's no one to follow because everyone who's a leader in this says study, do the research, and the research is there. So if there was like a person we were following and they were able to knock that person out, then we'd be in trouble, right? But what they have is they have the Hydra, every head out there, and we're all pointing to research, to data. And that's it's a critical thing. This is our Copernicus moment, is what this is. Galileo, these guys are thrown in jail for going against the establishment, right? And that's who knows, that may come down the road, but right now, we've got the truth on our side, that the sun is not the center, the earth's not the center of the universe, right? That's our statement now. And we revolve against the sun, and that was so counterintuitive and so against the government and the church that these guys were persecuted and had to go through trials. They were finally vindicated. We will be. It's the same thing, because you can't refute the data.
Yeah. Well, another good thing though is now, because of social media and things like that, we have a lot more access to information, and there are enough good people standing up, good doctors who are standing up and showing us the research as well. It's not just a few doctors here and there. There are a lot, and there's so much information that that they can't suppress it. If it was back
and I'm sure it's just going to grow.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
The difference between the Copernicus information is, that not everyone experiences orbiting the sun, right? And not everyone is critical thinker, but in this, there's so many data points that's growing. The pool is growing as people change. They join the standard American or standard Australian or Japanese people join this diet, and then they see the changes. And then now you have a point of reference that's local, your neighbor, your teacher, whatever. They've seen it, and you see it in person, and you can't deny that. And there's so many data points, and the pool is growing, that it is going to be an undeniable revolution. It is, and there's nothing they can do long term. I mean, I kind of liken it to like, the cable industry. Cable TV used to own all entertainment, right? And they were the masters. And now the internet came along, and all these little companies started chinking away at that armor, right? All these little streaming companies, and now it's like completely leveled out, and there's no NBC, CBS, and ABC, running the show now. Now it's all these industries, and everyone can choose what they want to watch. It's going to be the same with the food. We're going to see that the chinks are getting shown, and pretty soon it's just going to, the floodgates will break, and they won't be able to hold it back.
No, that's right. So that's definitely a good thing. I mean, like, if this was like back in the 80s and 70s or even 90s, it just wouldn't have progressed. It wouldn't have reached so much, because it just if you write a book, only a certain amount of people are going to read that book. But now with social media, we can get it everywhere. So.
Yeah, it's like in the 70s when the Atkins diet first came out. There's only a certain number of people that are ever going to know about it. But once they started talking about it on the internet, then
and then they put all the disinformation about it, right? So they try to, because the Atkins diet was successful. I did it, but now they're like, oh, he died of a heart attack. No, he didn't die of a heart. He struck his head and slipped on ice, and maybe his heart failed, but if he had never slipped on ice, he didn't die from congestive heart failure or heart disease. A heart attack from hitting your head is completely different.
Yeah, but that's the story that gets out there. The media likes to
story that gets out.
Tear it down.
Of course they do.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Dave, how long have you been carnivore? I don't know your full story here.
About 17 months now, just over 17 months. Yeah. So it's been a good 17 months, a nice pain-free 17 months, no arthritis and that kind of thing. So how about you?
Yeah, so March 22nd, so I'm 250 some odd days, and again, pain-free. Today I was doing sprints, I've implemented sprints into my training, and lifting with rubber bands, because I've got injuries from the military, so I can't lift weights like I used to, but I'm getting great results. I'm 6'3", 234 pounds, and I'm built like an athlete again. I feel like an athlete again for the first time in years. And it is an amazing thing to be 57 and doing sprints, because I never thought I'd run again, because my foot was injured so badly from the military that I hadn't run since 2017. So my last 2 years in the Army, I actually had what's called a profile, which means I could walk for my PT test, a speed walk, because I could no longer run. So now I can run again. So I really feel like if I were to go back in the military today, I would be a better soldier than I was my last 2 years, because I could mentally and physically do the job better now at 57 years old. Crazy, right?
Yeah. And how good is that feeling to be able to run again and feel like you're in high school again?
There's a high, a dopamine hit. You get a high when you exercise. I do. I'm sure everyone does. And just to be able to go do that, it's a great feeling. It really is. I put my good music on, and I set my timer, and I run my sprints, and I feel great.
Yeah.
It's just it's great to see so many stories like that too. It's an unbelievable feeling to be moving again. When you've been stuck, or like stuck in bed like I was, or just in pain in general, and your movement is just limited in any way. When you start feeling free movement again and start getting around, it just feels wonderful. It's amazing. You don't really understand what you've got until you lose it.
That's right.
So
I learned that lesson young. I started in my military. I was not Army. I was Navy, and I was on fast attack submarines from 1984 to 1990, doing missions against the Soviet Union. It was really exciting stuff for adventure for a kid. But being underwater and not being able to look outside or see blue sky, green grass, or anything for 3 months at a time, sometimes, right? When I came back, I really had a great appreciation. I remember hating to mow the lawn before I left, and coming back and thinking, oh, I can't wait to mow the lawn. This is great. I get to feel grass. I get to, all these things I used to really I did not like. I really had new appreciation. And same thing with movement. Yeah. If you've been restricted like I had been, and I gave up on it, I thought for sure, literally, I would never run again. Just thought that's just my mindset. And that's a hard mindset when you take that and you think that your life is now like this is your new reality. And then to be released from that, it's so empowering and so freeing. That's part of the mental, motivation that you get when you get in this diet and you can do things again. Your whole outlook on life changes. I'm planning things now that I didn't plan anymore. I feel like I don't know. I basically felt the rest of my life I would just be on this downhill slope and try not to die and try not to get too sick. The rest of I was kind of like just along for the ride. Now I'm in charge. I'm driving and I'm deciding what I want to do.
The outlook on the future is completely different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, I was just waiting for him to tell me when I need more chemotherapy, or when my day was up, sort of thing. So I really wasn't planning any kind of future more than my next blood test. Now I'm planning a future. Is a huge difference. A huge. It's like starting again,
Yeah. I think I was like planning not to lose too much. I was like, how am I going to minimize my loss for the rest of my life? Whether it's financial or health or whatever. I was just trying to, stabilize and not lose my standard of living. And now it's like I'm planning on doing things, right? I'm going the other direction. It's
I've got this whole open highway in front of me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly right, Dave. Actually, that makes an interesting question there, Larry. When you're on the subs for so long, did they supplement you with vitamin D?
They did not. They did not supplement us with anything. They
Wow.
fed us just so depending on the mission. So I was on a fast attack submarine, which is a very small submarine, 300 feet long, 30 feet wide, 106 guys, you know, and we do these missions. And if we were doing a long mission, they would actually take our refrigerator and turn it into a freezer. So we'd have 2 freezers, and we would have all frozen food. And then we would have dry stores, and we would actually line the whole deck, this one level, with number 16 cans, or these giant cans of food, and put plywood and crouch down and eat our way down to the floor because we couldn't store enough food. That was our limiting factor. We made our own water. We had nuclear power. We made our own air. We had CO2 scrubbers and oxygen generators. So the only thing that limited our mission length was food. So we actually would store all kinds, but we would eat terrible diets, obviously. We'd have a lot of meat. I mean, frozen meat was on the menu, but eggs turned into powdered eggs, you know, when they went bad. Yeah. No veg, which probably is healthy. We didn't know back then. We thought we were being, you know, eating poorly because we didn't have vegetables except for canned veg. We had, I remember, like canned asparagus, terrible, canned green beans, the worst you could think of, right? But we didn't get any supplements. And I remember being like, some of the things I remember was when you're on a submarine that moves, I don't know, there's a movement to the submarine all the time, and there's a vibration. And the first time you step off on solid ground after being for months on a submarine, it's a strange feeling because you step on something that's not moving for the first time. And the first time you get out and stick out, you get the fresh air stinks because you're used to the rancid air you've been breathing, right? Even though we make our air, it's terrible, a lot of diesel oil. And then the first time you try to look more than 100 feet and focus on something, your eyes can't, because your eyes have been trained just to focus within 100 feet. You can't look at anything further away. So it takes a while to get your eyesight back. It takes days. So you're reading signs that are a quarter mile down the road. You can't do that. I mean, at least I couldn't. So it was a different experience for sure. And like I said, it was an adventure for a young man. It was pretty exciting, the things we were doing. And I was, like I said, true believer. And I really kind of do still believe that back then we were on a more noble mission than what we have been as of late. So, yeah.
That's interesting though. Vitamin D is so important though now. It helps with absorption for everything. You know,
we would all get sick when we got back. All of us. I mean, because we come back, we've not been in the virus pool with you guys, and we get thrown back in after 3 months, and everything's changed, and we would all get sick.
Yeah, because your immune system is so low.
Yeah,
it's amazing how important vitamin D is. Yeah, but again, when it comes to supplements too, it's very important that you get ones that you can absorb. So the best form of vitamin D is sunlight. You know. Yeah. So,
can you get that from the UV lights, like the sunlight lamps or whatever? Can you get vitamin D from that?
I don't think so. I don't think so. No. It's the same as, you're lucky actually. In one respect, you're lucky they didn't have those meat 3D printers.
Then. Oh my gosh, that's
I can imagine them trying to solve the food supply problem with that.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, that does. It sounds disgusting. Be like eating Lego.
I've seen pictures of it, and it looks horrible.
Yeah, just seeing them make it, it's just I don't know how they could possibly think anyone would go for that garbage. But there are some out there, aren't there?
The thing is, they'll find people to do it. There'll be a market for it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, the Impossible Burgers and such are doing terrible here in the market in America. They're always on sale, marked down. They've laid off like 50% of their staff. I don't think that's going to fly long term, which is great.
And that's such awesome news.
It is.
Yeah.
I did work in oil and gas and refineries, doing wireless network design for them, for secure networks and for control systems. And we could do non-critical control systems wirelessly. And so I've been around a lot of industrial facilities, and seed oil refineries are no better. They're doing the same thing. They're cracking hydrocarbons, right? It's no different than oil and gas. Yet these environmental people are like, oh my gosh, oil and gas is so terrible because they got these refineries. But they eat seed oils, and it's like that's exactly the same thing. It's just a different oil. And you know, it's ridiculous that you think that this is like good and healthy and natural, you know, and that you're going to eat these refined foods and vegetable oils, and it's terrible for the environment. There's no such thing as a clean refinery. It's just they aren't, and we have to have them obviously to make plastics, to make fuels, to make things that we live with today in modern society. But what we don't have to have is seed oil. That's one that you don't have to have it at all, and that's the thing I don't get. It's like,
it's the one thing we shouldn't have. Yeah,
it's the one thing, the one thing that just makes sense to get rid of. So easy, low hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just that. A lot of these people are just ignorant of the way things, the way things work, the way our bodies work, the way the environment works. So these
thing is, they've got the heart healthy label on them, so they're heart healthy, right? That's what people think.
Low cholesterol. Try not to kill yourself.
Yeah. It's crazy. And you get these labels like organic salad dressings and stuff like that, and they tell you like these organic sort of oils that are in it, like these organic seed oils and whatnot, that are just machine oils. And like, okay, that's fine. Even if it is organic, it's still toxic, and it's just people don't read labels,
The salad oils we had growing up, when I grew up, the salad dressings, my mom would make them. She'd make Thousand Island dressing, right? And they didn't have seed oils because she would use like ketchup, which didn't have seed oils or anything back then. They had some sugar, mayonnaise, a little mustard or whatever, a little relish. She would make ranch dressing with buttermilk and seasoning. And we had olive oil, and back then olive oil was real olive oil. It was cold pressed, 100%, because there was not mass produced like it is now. And it was so we'd have those for dressings, and definitely infinitely more healthy than what people are eating now. And even if you buy the high quality stuff, like I used to eat salads with Ken's dressing, because Ken's dressing was like the expensive restaurant style dressing. But I look at it now, it's all canola oil. It's like the cheapest junk you could put in a food. It's the worst. It's poison.
Yeah. People are being convinced to count calories instead of counting ingredients. And
exactly.
That way corporations can put the blame on us for not eating low calories and exercising more. But you can't measure calories accurately, so it's just another blame game.
Even if you could, that's a physics problem, and we're biochemical engineers and biochemical engines. We're not physics engines, right? So
no, that's right. We're not internal combustion engines. We don't burn fuel. So,
I had to read through an article in an English class with some students yesterday talking about getting fit and calories, and I had to bite my tongue so much reading through that article.
I'll bet. So you're a teacher then, huh? Now, are you also teaching?
Yeah, teaching English now. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, you do it like an ESL? Are you in Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave lives in Osaka.
I'm in Osaka.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
It's hard
we were talking about that before, because it was we're talking about that before. It's like saying how cheap it is to how easy it is to be carnivore in Japan as well, because of the meat and everything is so cheap. But the yakiniku table whole day restaurants, buffets and things like that. But it's really cool.
That's neat. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nothing as good as all you can eat meat restaurant. That's
the place we go here for that. Well, we in Texas, every corner has a barbecue joint, which is great because Texas barbecue is different than a lot of American barbecue. It is a traditional German and Czechoslovakian style barbecue, which is smoked meats. So all they do is they season the meat with salt and pepper and they smoke it. They don't put any oils on it. They don't put any sugar, none of that. That's considered taboo in Texas. Now you go other places like Kansas City, it's all about sauce and sugar and mustard and all this stuff. They put all kinds of contaminants on their meat. We like the meat to stand out. So it's always, I get like when I buy brisket, I buy what they call extra moist, which is layered with fat throughout the meat. It's so good. Oh my gosh. My son's on board of that too. So I always get brisket. And so we have that. And then the other thing I can do is I can go to a Brazilian steakhouse. That's the only place you can just get all the meat you want. And they just come with a sword and they cut the meat on your tray. And they just keep bringing meat to you nonstop.
Nice.
All these different swords. One's got ribeye, one's got lamb, and they just bring these and they cut, and you just have a card on your table and flip it from red to green. Green means bring me meat. Red means taking a break. And you just sit there and eat, and it's all you can eat. And now they have a buffet with like cheeses and vegetables off to the side, but I just leave that. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to. The only thing I get out there is a little bit of hard cheese and some bacon. And then I'll just sit there and have them bring meat until I can't eat. I don't eat out very often, but if I do, that is a place I would like to go. So
nice. I love the green and red idea.
Yeah. The buffets in Japan are much the same. They have a salad bar usually as well, or a desserts bar as well. But who goes to all you can eat meat and eats desserts?
Right. Eating the cheap food. You gotta eat the good stuff.
Right.
It's like I went out with a friend of mine actually, and he ordered. We're at the all you can eat buffet, and he ordered 2 bowls of rice. I nearly slapped him. But oh well, you get that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I'll tell you what. We might call it a night, and I'll just show you. I'll just show everyone your channels again, because I just want to show people where you can be reached. Larry is Carnivore Soldier. So you guys go check it out. A lot of great content, and just a great guy to talk to as well. So go check it out, like, subscribe, and whatnot. And of course, most of you are going to like or know Dave as well. So I'll just bring that up. No Carb Life.
Thanks for having us, man. It's been fun. I'm gonna go back.
Thank you.
I got to get up. I got to get up and like I get up at 4:45 a.m. So I got about 3.5 more hours of sleep, and then I'll be up.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm an early riser. I'm institutional.
It was really nice meeting you, Larry.
You too, brother. It was good. I mean,
you guys get together. It's
we will.
Yeah.
For sure. Being in the carnivore community, there's like a brotherhood, sisterhood out of this, because we're all going through the same experience together. We're making the same sacrifices together. It's very much like the military in that aspect, because in the military and in first responders, there is a brotherhood, and the brotherhood is in the military is, you actually take risks together in your job, real risks, and you actually make sacrifices, real sacrifices, which most people don't do in their jobs these days. And I think in this shared experience of carnivore, because it is so changing and so it encompasses every aspect of your life, including your mindset, right? That we have this brotherhood. Like I've never met either one of you guys in person, but I feel a kinship, and I feel like we have a lot in common immediately. And you can tell because we almost finished each other's sentences talking, right? We understand the truth and the nature of carnivore diet and the significance of it. And it's hard. And same with people viewing the video. I see their comments. They're getting the same thing. So it is a movement unlike any other. It really is.
Yeah. Well, it's an awakening, that's what it is. We're waking up to the fact that everything, we've been lied to about everything. They've been deliberately making us sick, for example. And we are all in this together, you know. And you know, humanity is, you know, we're all a family, you know. So and we're all waking up to this at different times, and we're all, you know, coming on this journey from different points, but we're all heading in the same direction, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, Dave. Did you have a YouTube channel before this, or were you inclined to do a YouTube channel before this, or did this something that generated?
Just like mucking around, nothing serious. But like for me, I was angry when I realized, you know, how much we've been lied to, and that's where the YouTube came from.
Yeah, me too. I had a YouTube channel. This channel has existed for several years, and I had like 5 videos up. A couple were home videos I shared with my family, and then a couple were drone videos because I was doing some drone flying. But that was it. No one followed me. I didn't do no personal videos where I did interviews or anything. This was all, and this is the movement, right? That we're just like, hey, this is the real deal. It's the anger. It's the call, right? It's the call to action. So,
well, you don't realize too, you know, like we all pretty much know that politicians are for hire, and we know that politics is corrupt, but we don't sort of realize until we get, you know, really deep into it, and we start realizing, okay, it's absolutely everywhere. It's the education, it's the food supply, the manufacturing, the farming, the, you know, and the politicians and the corporations, and it's just absolutely everything is complete illusion. And that's when it sort of starts to make you pretty angry, and you think that even your own education is complete BS. You know, it's a complete lie.
Yeah.
And you can't get a real education anymore either. You can't get a critically thinking education where the people actually learn to think for themselves. They basically, you just remember what the numbers they want you to know. Yeah, it's just,
and even the ones that tell you need to be a critical thinker, they're like, you need to be a critical thinker provided you follow our narrative.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
think critically about stuff, but not about this stuff.
Yeah. Like as long as you follow this direction, yeah, you can think as much as you want, but you know, don't think outside that direction.
That hasn't
don't look
changed
around
much.
this corner.
Yeah, that hasn't changed much, because I remember getting out of the Navy after my 6 years and traveling the world in the submarine and everything, and then going to college and hearing professors spew out absolute lies about the West and about our countries and stuff. I'm like, and people just, oh yeah, that's the way it is because the professor said it. So I'm like, holy cow, these guys are lying to these kids, and they just eat it up, you know, as fact. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I don't know. I agree. It's the whole system that and this is a, you know, YouTube has limitations and has its faults, but thank God for it, because if it wasn't here, I wouldn't be here, and you guys probably wouldn't either. I would not be Carnivore.
No, that's
right.
right.
Not be doing this.
Yeah, it still has the largest audience, and it's not, even though we can't talk about certain things,
right?
It does have the largest audience, and if it wasn't for YouTube, there wouldn't be other platforms,
right?
You know,
Rumble,
like
and
Rumble, and all the rest of them. You know, so it does have its uses.
Yeah, we just gotta make hay while the sun shines with it, right? Until they clamp down, and
yeah, that's right. Just
all
do
right,
what we
guys,
can.
I'm gonna drop out of here.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks, Larry. Thanks for dropping in. Really appreciate that,
cheers,
guys.
Larry.
Yeah.
Cheers, DC.
All right, mate.
We're still on?
Yeah, that's all right. We'll finish up there. And all right, guys. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks for all the comments and the questions. And we'll see you
guys.
soon.
Yeah. See